Good afternoon, everyone. I am Rachel Sampson. I am the Strategic Partnerships Director at Visual Communications. Thank you for spending your afternoon with us and your time here with us for the C3 Converse presented by Nielsen. Thanks to all of our partners who made the 36th annual LA Asian Pacific Film Festival possible. Thank you especially to the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, Sony Pictures Entertainment, Comcast NBC Universal, California Arts Council, SAG-AFTRA Producers Industry Advancement and Cooperative Fund, the National Endowment for the Arts, HBO, and Warner Media. If you didn't already know, VC has launched a VC 50 campaign. Visual Communications is celebrating 50 years this year. If you feel compelled to do so, please donate to vcmedia.org/donate to allow us to continue to support our artist programs. We hope you enjoyed the last conversation and hope you will continue to join us throughout the day. I would like to welcome back Lucille Rolosa. She is one of our senior programmers here at VC. Lucille has over a decade of outreach and PR experience in film and music. Her work reflects an intersection of community engagement, crafted social media presence, and in-depth press coverage. Lucille's area of expertise includes festival campaigns, event management, and media tracking. Let's welcome back Lucille to the next panel.
Thank you, Ray. I thought it was going to be 1 to 2 sentences for my bio. Salamat. Anyway, thank you everyone for joining us. Again, my name is Lucille Rolosa. I'm one of the programmers amongst a team of programmers here at the LA Asian Pacific Film Festival. And I'm actually filling in today on behalf of my colleague, Dorothy Shao, who put together this wonderful program called The Female Gaze. Dorothy, being a filmmaker herself, put together this program of women storytellers who are putting together films about women and what does that mean in terms of perspective and aesthetic and style. So I hope I do Dorothy a solid, and hopefully she'll be proud of me in leading this conversation. But for now, let's go ahead and meet the filmmakers. So filmmakers, if you want to go ahead, turn on your cameras. I'm going to do like a roll call, and when I call out your name, go ahead, feel free and greet your audience famous style. So from gamers, we have Saadi Hulef.
Hi.
Right? And then there. Oh, you could also unmute yourselves too, y'all. I know you're all directors, so we could talk a little bit amongst each other. From I Know Her, we have Fazia Mirza. I think I saw her earlier today. From Mirror, we have Christina Yoon.
Hello.
Christina is zooming in from a famous living room. If anyone remembers, you drop it in the chat if you know where she's at.
Yes.
We also have from
maid, the driver.
You just hired a maid. From Parachute, we have Catherine Tolentino.
Hi everyone. How's it going?
From Were You Gay in High School, please welcome Nikki Eng.
Hi everyone. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for joining us. And then the other films that we have in the program also I want to acknowledge. We have a film called A Year from Ji-Soon Jamie Kim. We also have a film called 90 Day Plan from Gabriela Garcia Medina. And finally, we have You Win a USA Vacation Resort from director Georgia Fu. So now let's kind of get into the conversation. I do want to maybe do a little bit of a round robin and start off with the directors. Since the films are available all throughout the month, some of our audience may have not seen the films yet. Let's just go get round the room. Just with each director, tell us a little bit about the film and I guess the inspiration. So I'll start with Gamers. So Saadi, Gamers is a sort of a couple film, like, you know, in a sort of the moments of work from home and COVID, it seems very accessible. They're sort of like fighting over like screens and interacting and fighting over headsets and interacting through screens and chatting. Tell us how this film came about and what your inspiration is with the story.
Yeah, I know. Like now looking at Gamers, I feel like that's what people are kind of doing every day and kind of just chilling on the couch. The Gamers came from just my feelings and me wanting to explore the concept of like imposter syndrome and kind of idea of just like, you know, how a lot of women have it, especially if it's something that they want to do are really good at, but there's just a fear that they're not good enough. And then me seeing like the counter of that, like my male colleagues, even at work or just my friends, how much more confident they are in themselves, even if they don't have the skills or haven't even approached the thing they want to do. And kind of just like looking to myself and being like, oh, like what are things that I don't go out for, mainly because of fear, and also because feeling like I'm not good enough for it. And for me, like I love playing like the really fun, stupid games. Like I like playing like games that are mostly about food and where I could be with people. But growing up, I never was really encouraged to play games or kind of be like, my brother was given a Game Boy. My brother was first choice of what games he wanted to play for GameCube. There wasn't really like a conversation with like me and my sister of like what games you want to play. So that was also something I was like interested about, of just like the concept of world of like gaming and who's allowed to be a gamer or not, but also just your own self-confidence and what you want to do.
Thank you for that. I want to get into a little bit of your casting and also like kind of the visually how you told the story, but kind of continuing on the notion of feeling not good enough or like feelings of esteem. Esteem is also rooted in how you look and how you present yourself. So I want to bring the conversation now to Christina to talk about Mirrors. Can you tell us a little bit about the film and how the story came about?
Yeah, definitely. The film is about a Korean immigrant who has a large scar on her face, and she deals with self-esteem, self-image issues regarding that. And she goes to a black market hospital in Queens, New York, to get plastic surgery and remove the scar. But the decision does become riskier when she's presented with the option of completely reconstructing her face. So it's just kind of exploring what it takes for someone with self-esteem issues to go through this personal journey of healing and of struggle to come to accept themselves or not.
Thank you for that. It's if you haven't seen it yet, again, it'll be on our website all throughout the month. It's a very powerful film, and it's quite naked and vulnerable. It's of a similar tone of your previous film at the festival was Midnight Girl, and
yes.
and that also had like a sort of nakedness where you're just kind of in there with her thoughts. So congratulations on that. I want to continue on to Catherine, who in your piece, we kind of experienced we witnessed a little bit of a journey with one of your leads. Can you tell us about Parachute and how that story came about?
Yeah, so my short film is called Parachute, and it's set in the Parachute Kid community, which basically refers to any high school age or even junior high school age immigrant from Asia, predominantly China, who comes over to the US to do their education here. And oftentimes these kids come over by themselves. They're paired with host families. They're paired, they're enrolled in schools. And the idea is to give them a solid American education and a leg up when it comes to the college application process. Unfortunately, a lot of these kids end up not having the support systems that they need. And in LA, a few years ago, there was a case where a group of them really reacted violently to the situation that they were in and ended up beating up one of their classmates. And that story was what inspired me to make this film. Parachute kids in general, many of them do quite well, but I think there are a number of people who just end up like not having the support and the guidance that they need to make it, to be living on their own in the United States. So my film is about two girls who are living in the San Francisco Bay Area in San Jose. And they both live with the same host family, but they come from different parts of China. And one of them is struggling a lot more than the other. And so the film is about basically how they don't get along.
And it kind of, for me, it kind of revealed some of these nuances of a high school experience that I didn't really acknowledge. While I was aware that, there were kids from overseas that would, come finish their high school education stateside. What you revealed a little bit of the sort of with Mei Ling and Wendy, it never occurred to me that people would want something other than the American like high school degree. Let's go to another high school experience. Nikki, with Were You Gay in High School? For me, tragically, I understand what the friend zone is like. So can you explain to us what the film is about and how it came out?
Yeah, so Where You Gain High School is co-written by me and my co-writer and DP Karen Du. It's funny because Where You Gain High School, like, yeah, I'm queer now. I was queer back in high school, but because both Karen and I were closeted in high school, the answer to that question is also like, no. Like if you ask people we went to high school with, they're not gonna be like, yeah, she was gay, because I wasn't. And you know, when you're closeted in high school, things like having a crush or having like a weird sexually charged experience, like you can't just tell people about it. You kind of just have to keep it to yourself. And so what we did was, you know, as two openly queer and out adults, having a very candid conversation about like, who were you like back then? Like, what were the things that happened to you and what were those experiences? And then just being able to talk about them openly, and realize like how cringy and funny and embarrassing they were at the time. But, you know, now that we're removed from it, it feels okay. And yeah, I think that, you know, high school is such a formative time for people exploring their sexuality. And I think queer closeted people have to repress a lot of it. And so then it ends up, you know, being a process much later in life. But yeah, the film is a hybrid of live action and animation. We kind of use the animation to really like exaggerate, you know, like dumb teen brain hormonal stuff, which was really fun because anything's possible with animation. But yeah, that's essentially what it was.
Let's go from one possible crush awkward conversation to another awkward conversation in bed. Right there. So welcome back, Fazia. I introed you earlier. Like, you want to do your little intro on your famous celebrity wave?
I have no idea what that intro is, but I'm sure whatever you said was amazing. I was just like Zoom hopping. So, you know, it was like, it's sort of like yacht hopping, just less liquid. But it's fine. It's still really important. So yeah, you probably wish you were there. No, I feel like I'm being talked to next because my short has a really you know, natural conversation that happens between two people post-coital, and in the film they happen to be two women, and you know, it's meant to be a twist, but I feel like panels are spoilers, so whatever. Yeah, so it turns out that these two women are in bed. I happen to be one of them, and because I wrote it, directed, and acted in it. And they're like, oh my gosh, we have so much in common. It's like, oh, you know so-and-so, you know, and I feel like it's such an Asian game. And in that we even micro it to the South Asian game. And it's like, oh, you know her and Zara. Oh my gosh, I do brunch with her. I do this. And then, you know, suddenly it's like, oh, you know her. And it's like, oh my gosh, I was so inspired by her. And it's like, well, how do you know her? And she's like, and then my character is like, oh yeah, you know, actually she was my first girlfriend. And then the other character is like, how do you know her? And she's like, oh, she's my mom. So, you know, it's sort of that, you know, awkward conversation that happens. Yeah. And I think, you know, very much inspired by, you know, the way the world is shrinking, right? It's like, oh my God, the world is getting so much smaller. And if you think about it, like I went to school with a ton of people who were like, I'm donating this, or I'm donating this, or it's like, well, how many babies are out there in the world? Like maybe you're having sex with somebody that is like co-DNA with you. Like we just kind of don't know that stuff. And as the world gets smaller, especially in queer space, you're just like, or really any sort of deeply, community space, you're sometimes in a range of groups, whether it's ages or experiences, and the pool is so much smaller, or feels like it is. So yeah.
Well, what I like, I mean, in all of the films, and Dorothy definitely picked up on this when she put the program together, is in the dialogue, there seemed to be sort of, I don't know, it maybe be my womanness coming in as an audience, but there were like tender sort of moments in the dialogue that I don't know could have been as easily affected if y'all weren't, you know, women directors, women identifying artists. Like for going to Saudi, if you want to talk a little bit about your process in writing and with your producer, Tiaja. Sorry, y'all, yeah, I'm reading off of my notebook.
Yeah.
I really like, you know, when your your leads are sort of, they're a couple and they're kind of navigating, like, it's basically don't work that late at night because I want you to come to bed with me at the end of the day. And the kind of like the subtle things of like, well, if I take on this job, I won't be able to cuddle you. I was like, yes, I want to be cuddled. Like, this is what couples need to be like. Couples need to be like sort of negotiating in their conversations. Talk us through your writing process.
Yeah.
I mean, a overview of the writing process.
Yeah. When I first, I just remember I wanted to do something, and I like pitched stuff to Tiaja Nakahara, the producer of the short. And I was basically saying like, I have all these ideas, hear them out. And she kind of like took two of the ideas I had and put them together, and said like, why don't you just combine these two ideas and let's write something about it. And for me specifically, like, I am not queer, I'm an ally, and I do a lot of work in LGBT community. So like, and for me specifically, like, I love watching queer films, but I also was just like, there's a lot of queer films about, being gay. Like, I would love to just have the actors be gay, just to talk about their lives and just kind of just have a conversation about them and us relationship. So a lot of the dialogue, and I had a lot of my queer friends read it too, just to see like, does this make sense to you? Do you relate to this? And a lot of it kind of just stems with like the idea of like, partnerships and being in a relationship, and like, especially when one field or one really like the field or the conversation they're having about is something that's not usually in the world or not represented. They're not specifically represented in it. So when writing these two characters, I wanted Taylor, who is, I think you were calling her like the cat girl, the one that's playing the cat game on the couch. She's very much just like, she knows who she is, she knows what she wants, and she's kind of like the person in the relationship who's kind of like, fuck it, let's just do it. While Jamie is kind of just like more like thoughtful about her choices and what she wants to do, but at the same time like overthinks it, which leads her to make no action at all. So when you kind of have like these polar opposite characters, especially since one of them wants to support the other one, and you're kind of seeing your partner kind of like self-doubting yourself, it's just like, what do you do kind of moment. So yeah, we had a lot of conversations of like, what would Taylor do, or what would she say that would be meaningful for Jamie, to motivate her. And we don't want it to be like this huge ass fight where they're like, we're breaking up, because that's kind of like what the story's about. There's more about just like Jamie facing her own insecurities or imposter syndromes, and having her partner Taylor also realize that too, and kind of see how they could work at it together.
Thank you for that, because when we first watched it, a lot of the programmers were like, oh, someone's going to pick this up because it has this sort of buoyant love vibe. And, I think we're all kind of suckers for like that kind of imperfect type of love story. So we were all glad to have it into the program. I'd love to shift to Parachute a little bit, because now you have a dynamic between two young women. They're not paired romantically, but there is something very charged between them, and like you bring us into that conflict really quickly without overtly banging us in the head. Like, how did you achieve that? What were your calls to kind of bring that to screen?
Yeah, Seal, thanks so much. I love that you noticed that. It was definitely a discussion throughout the writing process and pre-production, working with Nikki about what it is that Nikki wants and what she's in need of. And I think when Mei Ling moves into the house at the beginning of the film, Wendy is in a place where she needs friendship or companionship of some kind because she's so alone. She's so isolated. And we open the film with a long distance phone call between her and her mom, where you kind of get the sense that the relationship is a little bit strained. And she's staying in this house in the United States, but we don't meet the family that she's staying with because she comes home and they've already eaten dinner without her. So you have this feeling from the very beginning that she's lonely. And so when Mei Ling moves in, she is in need of friendship, but she's the type of person that would never admit that. And so throughout the whole film, we were kind of balancing that tension of like, she wants friendship, but she also needs to maintain control. And so in her interactions with Mei Ling, that's kind of, she comes off as wanting to be more powerful or maintain some sort of control over her, when in reality, what she really needs is just to connect, even though she has no idea how to do that. And Nikki, our lead actress, was just so solid at like being able to communicate all that just with a look. And we were so impressed by her performance, right? So incredible. And yeah, there's this scene where she's sort of telling off Mei Ling for being too kind or too friendly at dinner the first night when she first moves in. And she's like, you don't have to act like that, you know? But then she kind of says, opens up a little bit and says, life out here is really hard and we kind of need to stick together. And that's the most vulnerable that she'll ever make herself in the film. But it says so much, you know, about what she's willing to give to actually get what she needs in return.
Everything about her look, like the part where she's when they're in the classroom and there's sort of like these kind of glimpses where she's basically almost rolling her eyes, but she's not, like it's just like steel piercing eyes at Mei Ling. It's a fantastic performance from her. Let's move into, again, like to another high school story. Nikki, you and I were talking a little bit about the sort of visual style of what you presented to us, and why the choice to make it a mixture of live animation or live action and animation for this piece?
Yeah, it was just kind of something from the get-go that we knew could really elevate the project and also in a way elevate the storytelling and like the emotional aspects of the story as well. It's, you know, like the film kind of takes place in 3 parts. There's like the conversation that happens in present day in the car, and then there's the flashbacks to them in high school, and then there's animated layers on top of that. And we, like I mentioned before, like you can do anything with animation in a way that like is very difficult to shoot on like an indie film budget. And so, you know, when we were thinking about like, okay, like if we really just set ourselves loose, you're free to do whatever you want in terms of exploring these very, very deeply repressed emotions. And like the stuff that we came up with is a little bit like cuckoo bananas for, you know, on purpose. There's like 3 different animated cats and like a Nan cat Pop-Tart stuff and a lot of like very contemporary meme things, because it felt like a really relatable way for people to understand the experiences of being closeted in high school. Like it's a really difficult thing to convey and to have people understand and feel in the same way if it's not something they're privy to. And so the animation seemed like at the very least you can kind of understand the euphoria of it or the cringiness or the awkwardness of the animation. So it was something that we had thought about very, very early on. And we were so fortunate to get such amazing animators, Sarah Gunness-Dortier, who did Diary of a Teenage Girl, and then also Amanda Bonato. And working with them was an incredible experience. I think it was like, from a production standpoint, very difficult because we were animating before we had shot. And then after we'd shot, we'd have to go back and do animation because there are fully animated sequences, but also, you know, animation on top of live action stuff. So it was an incredible experience, really, really fun. And I think people are enjoying it so far.
It's, I mean, all the sort of the color and the sort of the pace of it, it keeps this sort of what is kind of like a quiet kind of lonely feeling in high school. Like it kept it really accessible for everyone and kind of riding along till the end. Now the direct opposite of that, I mean, while it still feels very solace, is the sort of mood that Christina brings in Mirror. From the get-go, I feel that, very excellently, I felt like I was sucked into a place and everyone's looking at me. It was everything from like the color and like how it was shot. What was your thought process in kind of choosing to tell the story this way?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was really important for me to bring the audience into her internal world and her internal experience. For me personally, the journey of dealing with insecurity and self-image issues is very private, and it's not necessarily something that you go and share with everybody. Sometimes it's very isolating, and I wanted to reflect that honestly and to just, you know, it's a quiet film. She doesn't talk to people really about it unless, you know, she has to, and to just see how she's dealing with it in the privacy of her own room, watching these images of these K-pop idols and seeing what she sees is beautiful and how she doesn't measure up to that. So that definitely informed the way that I, you know, chose to direct the film in terms of its silence and tension and kind of stillness for the first, 2/3 of the film.
Can you tell us a little bit of how you about your lead and how you sort of worked with your actress to get into this role?
Yeah, my lead is named Spring Kim. She is a Korean American actress. She was based in New York. Now she's in LA. She just kind of came into the audition like really embodying the character. I mean, it was in her body language, just kind of like the way she sort of would wither up and use her hair and hide herself with her hair. And so I was just so impressed by the way she was able to do that and bring it into her body. But she's actually a really, kind of outgoing, talkative person. But I think that when I talked to her about the character and if she was able to access anything in her past or that she might feel that she doesn't like about herself and that she has to deal with, accepting certain parts of herself. And of course, like she said, yes, everyone has something that they, wish that they didn't have or wish could be different. So she was able to tap into that and deliver that really kind of tense, withheld performance.
Yeah. Her posturing felt very, recognizable. I'm going to say that over and over again because sort of when women tell stories about other women, there's something innate about kind of bringing out gestures that I don't think non-women identifying folks would be able to sort of bring out. Like, so with Fazia, when they're sort of in the conversation and there's sort of the little chuckles of like, oh, of course, and like how she kind of swoons when you kind of identify another friend. Like, was there actual directorial preparation, or was it sort of more from like the crush vibes of like new love like direction?
Like, you mean in terms of like
the physical interaction, like in the bed and...
No, I'm super crush worthy. You know this. Come on.
Yes, very natural. It was all improv. We just took some...
Just kidding. No, so I came in, Kausar Muhammad, who plays opposite me, she's a really talented comedic actor. And I'd been kind of thinking of something for us to do and something really small. And I'm moving into this director space and I wanted to make something, and I was thinking of the horror genre or that kind of tense thriller moment where it's like the camera moves in, and it's like that doesn't always just happen in that genre. Comedy is like I love a twist. So I came in with the idea and the framework, and there were only three of us, working on this. The two of us you saw on screen, and then this amazing queer woman named Lisa Tom, who was the DP, gaffer, edited it. And I came in with the concept and kind of a little bit of an idea of what we wanted to do back and forth. But Kausar is such a great improviser. And I actually really love to write that way as well. It's like, okay, even when I'm alone, I'll just talk it out loud, or I have to talk it out to my partner. And, I'm like, how does this sound? And the out loud helps me find the words and the rhythm of like how people really talk or how this could really go, or, that kind of vibe. And so we just kind of did it a couple times, and it kept getting more like tighter and tighter. And, there is a Brown Girls Who Brunch scenario. And there is like, we do have friends who's like, oh, she has that book launch, and, oh, like I was at her house for that, like, blah, blah, blah. And, oh, that like, nonprofit that's saving the world, and da, da, da. And so we just kind of worked on it. And then I was like, okay, let's do this beat, then this beat, then this one, and then this one. And then this is how we're going to come to the reveal of the mother as my ex, your mother, of this woman. And the take you saw was our last take. And it just was like, what, this is it, And I can't remember who the director was that I was listening to recently. Oh my gosh. And I feel awful. The woman who directed Harriet, she was doing a lab for us recently, and I got to hear her speak, and she was like, you have it, because she was like, the hair stand up on the back of your neck or on your arms and that kind of thing. And I'm like, yeah, like my vibe is very emotion based. So it's like that feeling, just trust it. And so, I was like, yeah, I think we got it. Great. Let's go out. Let's wrap up,
No, when,
yeah. That trust,
when
that collaboration to me is also kind of a deep part of the divine feminine, right? And
right.
that goddess space of like, you can, and like, not that we can trust everybody. I wish we could, because obviously we can't, but that trust, and how do we create a space on a set where we can trust those people and know that they have our backs just as much as we have theirs? Because to me, it's a collaboration always.
I wish Dorothy was here for this conversation, because I think she would echo that that's what she wants to bring to her work, because Dorothy's a filmmaker herself. But yeah, when we watched yours, when it came through, like we all were like kind of like mind blown emoji, like what just happened at the end. So thank you for sharing with that. I like continuing from the sort of casting and like preparation from Fasia's convo. Saadi, like, can you talk a little bit? We talked a little bit earlier about your original intentions for cat girlfriend and professional gamer girlfriend. Can you talk a little bit about your original design for that and how it ended up with what we see on screen?
The actual designs of the games, or
your intention of the casting.
oh
the
yeah,
cat
yeah.
girlfriend was
Yeah, so originally, when I first wrote it, I knew I wanted POC people and people who looked like me to be the actresses. So Tiaja and I did like a really big wide casting kind of like network. And it's funny because we're both from LA and we both went to UCLA Film School. So when we do like casting, like backstage, whatever, like we would get like hundreds of like emails of like all these actresses. And then we're both in the Bay Area now. And when we did it, we weren't getting that huge surge like we usually were used to. And we were just like, oh shit. So we had to like kind of use other methods and ways, because we know there's talent here in the Bay Area. But you just have to look a little harder, especially within the POC community. Because when I did put up the casting like information of like the character descriptions, I would put like POC or Black or Asian, and I would just get like a rush of all these like white like women apply for it, and I rarely see any of the people, the POC people we're looking for. So I went on Instagram and just started DMing people that I saw, and I love going to film festivals. And what's cool about the Bay Area is that like literally once a month there's a film festival, and so there's access for me to kind of just go to these festivals and like see the filmmakers, to see actresses. And when we were doing the casting calls, it was interesting because I originally casted Jamie, the gamer girl, as Asian. And then Destiny came in, and Destiny was like, oh, I'm here to play Jamie. I'm like, oh no, you must be Taylor, because I marked Taylor as like the African-American woman. And she's like, no, I'm Jamie. And I'm like, oh, okay, like whatever. And then she did it, and I'm like, oh yeah, you're definitely Jamie. Yeah, you're definitely not Taylor. Yeah, you're definitely not. And then on the flip side, Andrea came, and she came to audition for Jamie as well. And then when she did it, I was like, actually, can I give you the slides for the opposite character? I just want to see how it is. And she did it, and I was like, holy crap, she nailed it. So after the first round of casting, we kind of got like 5 or 3 of each character to do like a second round of casting, just to do like romance tests, because that was my biggest thing of just like, I want to make sure the actresses we have actually look like they're in a relationship, and you can actually see this kind of couple like out in the streets. And what was so funny is that Destiny and Andrea like knew each other because of like the actor circle here in the Bay Area, and they actually both auditioned to different commercials and seen each other. So immediately the bond was just there. And then like one of the things I asked him to do was just like, can you just be on the couch and cuddle? Like, I just want to see how you guys will cuddle. And it just felt so natural, and you're just like, oh wow, they literally look like they've been together for like 4 or 5 years. Like, this is solid. So yeah, and casting is always one of my favorite parts of filmmaking, because you just be so surprised. And like, after knowing them and talking to them more, I ended up like changing and updating the script a lot because of their input and how they see their characters. And I thought that was like really impactful.
I love hearing that. And I think that's something that I acknowledge with a lot of like my colleagues who are women identifying. It's that sort of notion of bringing people in and being sort of, we're part of this process together and sharing space on that. We're nearing towards the bottom of the hour, but just to continue the thought about Bay Area connection earlier, Catherine and Saadi were like, Bay Area all day in the green room. We'll bounce to you, Catherine. Like, what's next for you with the project? I know the film's been out for a little bit. What's happening for you now?
Yeah, so honored to be playing here at LAAPFF, and we're also going to be at Hamptons in a couple weeks, Cinequest in San Jose, a number of other festivals, Hawaii, which I so wish I could go to. I'm so bummed. And then we have our online premiere on Short of the Week on October 13th, so coming up in about 2 weeks. So we're really excited for that. And I also am super involved in the Bay Area film community as well. And I actually just this summer co-founded an online screening series for Bay Area films. So Ari, we gotta get in touch and screen yours in an upcoming event. So yeah, our next event is next Thursday. It's called Bay Made, and we'll be screening 6 films, actually including Parachute. And so really all about like helping our local community thrive, getting more resources for ourselves and access to other people within the network, actors, crew, everyone. So that's what I'm up to now.
I just saw that on my Instagram feed.
Yeah.
So yes, Bay Made.
Actually,
Let's move on
I saw the link from I'm part of one of the film circles that someone sent a link about, and I'm going next week, so I just want to say.
See, it's another episode of I Know Her. Circles are touching other circles where, a story's going to come up out of this.
I can make a comment about that. Circles touch another circle.
I think my mom is here, Fazia, so what's up, Mom?
I think I was in the green room with your mom. I don't know. I kept getting into the green room instead of the main room, and there was just aunties, and I was like, why am I in the wrong room?
It's the LA Asian Pacific Film Festival where everybody is family. Let's go ahead and move it to Nikki. What's next for you, and maybe what's next for the project? Is it going anywhere?
Yeah, the project's got a busy October. We're playing 2 festivals in New York this month, as well as Toronto, Atlanta, Dublin, and I think New Mexico. So lots of exciting stuff there. We're also pretty active in developing it into a show because the format kind of lends itself to an interesting format to tell stories. I'm also personally developing a feature. So lots of exciting stuff, lots of ways to catch the short. But I'm very excited to have played here because I love this festival and I love all of these people. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Nikki. And let's move to Christina. How's it going in your lovely living room, and what's next for your project and you?
Thank you. It's going great. So yeah, Mir is going to Korean American Film Festival in New York and Philadelphia Asian American Film Festival. And we're waiting to hear back from some more. Up next, I'm getting ready to direct another short in Korea next year. And that one is about a Korean adoptee going to meet her. Sorry, did I freeze?
You're good.
That one's about a Korean adoptee going to search for her birth mother, and it's centered on the day that she does meet her birth mother. So that is really exciting, and getting ready to go over to Korea next year to do that.
Wow, that's huge. And Sari, what's next for you and the team and the film?
Yeah, actually, Gamers is at the end of its festival circuit. So when we got the email from you guys, we're like, whoa, that's cool. We're still getting to festival. So I think officially this is the last film festival for it. But I've been making docs, and I'm also getting ready to make my next live action short film. I'm doing a lot of writing, and I'm also just like doing a lot of searching because I know because of COVID, specifically in the Bay Area, a lot of productions have been on hold or have moved to LA. So it's like kind of it's like a weird phase of me trying to connect with folks. But yeah, the goal is to shoot something sometime next year.
Can't wait to see what you have next. And Fazia, what's next for you?
I'm also, I guess, at the end of the circuit, but who knows? It's online, so things kind of just flush around. I know her is screening. There's this big nationally televised short film competition in Canada, which I'm in Toronto right now. It's called the Short Film Face Off. So it competes on October 17th against 2 other films. And then if it wins, it goes into a final. And then, it's a big prize. If somebody wins, it's $30,000 Canadian. But But that'd be great. So who knows? And then it's like voted on by like a national audience. So that's pretty cool. So let's see what happens. And then I just shot a short film that I wrote and directed this past weekend in conjunction with CBC here in Toronto, Jam, CBC Jam, which is like their kind of digital platform. And I feel super blessed. A feature that I've been working on for a very long time, which is from a short film that I first released in 2012, which was also at the LA Asian Pacific Film Festival. That feature got into, I got to do the TIFF filmmaker lab this year as a writer director. So I just finished that. So, you know, I'm constantly, writing and, you know, trying to make use of being at home as much as possible and just trying to find my relatives that need to vote. So
Exactly.
everyone should vote. There's only one way. Using my platform.
That's Fazia's grit.
Yeah, encouraging all Asian folks to you know, vote for the only Asian person on the ticket.
Thank you all for taking the time to hang out with us. Again, I want to shout out Dorothy for putting together such an amazing program. It's called The Female Gaze. If you haven't checked it out yet, it is online on our festival watch site up until the end of the month. If you enjoyed this program and our entire festival lineup, please consider donating to Visual Communications. Your support helps the squad keep going all throughout the year. And with just, it's only like 2 of these, Fazia, only 2 of these. It helps keep our operations and our programming all throughout, and hopefully we could keep going strong for 2021. For most recent updates on the festival, please visit festival.bcmedia.org or follow us on our social media accounts at BC Film Festival. And don't forget to tag us at hashtag LAAPFF 2020. That's what the kids say, right? Thank you, everybody. Filmmakers, you're welcome to sign off, but thank you so much for hanging out with us. Bye, y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.